Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and Governor Healy's March 28th, 2025 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Board of Health will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website, townofgb.org. Committee members and members of the public may attend this meeting in person or remotely. Instructions for remote access can be found at the top of this agenda. Every effort will be made to ensure that those attending remotely can access the proceedings in real time via technological means. That being said, we will call the meeting to order at 6:36 with a roll call vote. Peter Stanton,
Aye.
Dr. Ruby Chang,
Aye.
and I am here as well, Mike Lanu. As we discussed, we are going to move our executive session to the end of the meeting so that we can get to the folks who are here in the room with us and online as well.
Can I just make a correction?
Yes.
With what you had just read, is
Yes.
that our website,
Yeah.
information has changed. So we need to correct that.
It's no longer townofgb.org.
It's townofgbma.gov.
Ah,
So just to let
Okay,
everyone know
yes.
to make the correction.
we'll fix that. Good catch. So our first order of business before public hearings is approval of minutes. The minutes from May.
Ready for a motion?
Sure.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from May.
A second.
And our roll call will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. All right, the first public hearing tonight is a review to request extension of the Mass Sanitary Code order pertaining to 675 Egremont Road. And I'll look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
A second.
Roll call be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Who would like to give us a brief overview? James?
Yeah, I can go, I
Okay.
can go into this. So, we received a call, on, I believe that was April 22nd, 23rd, but it was from occupant Siobhan Rooney, who, this was at location 675 South Egremont. She had called the office in a concern that there was the possibility for lead-based paint. And in discussing with her, the possible age of the house and that there are children under the age of 6 in the home, that engaged me to go to the location and do a housing inspection. So as I got there, I did talk to Siobhan and discuss with her doing the limited or doing the comprehensive. So we went into a full, the full comprehensive investigation. And that concluded, and that was on May 1st. And then we proceeded from there, did the report and correction order and sent to Mr. Beebe, and also to Siobhan on the report of the housing investigation.
Okay.
Also advised her to reach out to her pediatrician and primary care in regards to lead testing to be done, because of those concerns, and also to CLPPP for a lead determinator from the state to be notified. So the
So-
potential to come out.
Right. So our department doesn't make any determination for that,
Right.
right? So they
Correct.
have to call someone special.
Yes,
All right.
yes, yep. And Siobhan had all that information and is working on it now, but she's also here to then can share on that progress.
And so we issued a correction order for other things you.
Yes,
found.
we did.
Okay.
Yeah, other housing concerns.
Okay,
How old is this property?
I mean, to me, it was pre-1978, which caused me to have the concern, but I don't know an exact date of that
but that
location.
was the initial complaint. was-
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the board, or Rebecca, do you want to add anything?
How long has she lived there?
I would probably say it's less than a year or a
They
year,
were in there, they moved in August, late August,
late
early
August.
September
August of 24.
of 20. Yeah, 24,
24.
this is 25, so
Relatively new.
they've been there for. Since then,
Okay. So is there a law when you rent a property to someone who has children less than 5? That you have to have lead testing done prior to
not that
rental?
I'm aware of. We followed all the instructions for, we sanded and scraped all the walls, the windows, all the woodwork, the molding, everything.
Mhm.
I spent $100,000 to make that place a really nice place to live, and it was when they moved in. And since then, I have not been in the house,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden, interestingly enough, right after I had this huge blow up with Susan Sabelli, who also called at 5:35, who also called the Board of Health out of pure vindictiveness on her way out. And she and Susan and Siobhan are friends, so they got to know each other, and she's following a textbook example of how to harass Mr. Beebe and bankrupt him
Okay, so
for no particular reason.
so you're coming tonight to ask for an extension to our
That's
order?
all I want.
Okay. And how much time would you like?
Well,
Are you asking for?
I don't
Usually-
know, but I have to fix up the wreck that Susan Sabelli left. But the most of the, you inspected it, and most of the things are minor and can be taken care of. And could have been taken care of all winter long. And I had an agreement with keep saying Susan, Siobhan in March. That she was withholding rent, which was at that point was $8,200, which she had not paid since December. So I said, all right, well, she said, well, I sold a life insurance policy, so I got the money from that. And I have the $8,200 that I owe you, but I'm not gonna give it to you unless you agree to fix everything in the house. And I said, okay, we'll do that. So, but every attempt subsequently, first, at the beginning of every single week from then on, I would tell her to call, or I would call and say, do you want Jim, my repairman, to come in and take care of it? Or she would not answer the phone, she did not answer his text. It was obviously, she didn't want to let anybody in the house. From that point in March, all the way through, and I hadn't been in the house all winter. And at that phone conversation in March, I said, well, how do you like the house? She said, oh, it's okay. It's okay. I said, okay, well, are there certain things you want? Well, it was a little more expensive to heat, and we had trouble with the heat, and, not much heat in a few rooms, but there was no complaints whatsoever until she runs into Sabelli. And Sabelli, you know what I did with her,
Yes,
and she unloaded on Siobhan, and the two of them
So-
decided, and so she is textbook following every single thing that Susan Sabelli did, she is doing to me.
okay, Mr. Beebe,
This is harassment.
we do not want to get into the,
Well, that's what's going on.
I appreciate that there is a backstory, there always is. for
Well,
housing
this is
authority.
severe.
I
I
understand,
did nothing.
but for tonight, we're just addressing the
That's
fact.
fine, that's
So we
fine.
just want to know how much time, we do want to hear from the
What is
occupant.
the maximum amount? Because I've got so many, but I want to get them out. They were served their papers 3 days ago.
For this tenant or? for-
Yes, no, this is for 675.
You've also served this with a 675.
That was served back on, beginning of May. This one is another one.
Yes,
An order of eviction. I decided on the basis of what I just told you,
yes,
this was a vendetta against me.
okay,
And so I said, that's it. And so under, tenants at will. And they have no lease or anything, under tenants at will, which is a legal authority, all I have to do is say, I want them out. I don't even have to give a reason.
okay. All right,
And that's
so,
what I'm doing.
so, James, what do we think is a reasonable amount of time for an extension?
Well, let me just say one more. I want to get it done so I can get it rented.
Yes,
So I'm not gonna drag my feet on it, but I've also got Sabelli's
we
absolute mess that she's left. It's gonna cost $50,000 to $100,000 again.
we understand that. So we just want to keep the discussion just to the time period, because that's why we're here
As
tonight.
long as you give me.
I mean,
What did we do last time? We had August 8th for the other bill, the 535.
right. I
So
mean,
maybe September 8th or something like that.
I mean, we can,
Conditions being in danger that, no infraction occurred.
we
if there are any.
Yes. There are in regards to the windows and the age of the windows. They are those weighted windows where they are awkward and heavy to shut, so there's not like a glide to slow them down. They will just drop. And I don't wanna say like a guillotine, but it has that kind of weight to it that can come right down. Those are a concern, that CDE concern, and also we had the grab that real quick. There was the elevator in there, on the second floor, so there is the in-law suite on the first floor. And there's an elevator that goes up to the second floor of the home.
And that,
So,
that can be locked, and I think it was locked.
and Siobhan, it's got a doorknob on it for turning, but not, it can't lock. So,
That's a very easy
Siobhan,
fix.
right, when Siobhan has put a dresser up against it, barricading that door from being able to be opened. So it is concealed, but it's still a concern that it needs to be
Has
addressed.
she
Those are the
got
two
my-
main CDs.
Two minutes, so the door and
The windows,
and are they the old windows?
the
with-
rope and weight.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
they are heavy,
Yes.
but,
Some are, some aren't.
right, I mean, but there was enough of them for me to, with the children, to have cause for a concern of that dropping hard
Okay.
on their fingers, and,
Okay.
and then that's where that is, yeah.
So in terms of a time to get these fixed. Well, I'd just like to know what is amenable first to. For us to say, well, we
Most of
find,
these things, it's not so much a question, I got 3 other houses I gotta get taken care of.
yes,
And I'm trying to get them all done with 2 men, full-time men, and it's very slow going.
well, if we,
And now this thing interestingly enough, came in just after I'd finished with Susan Sabelli.
Sure.
All of a sudden, this comes out of the blue.
Well-
There was no indication that she was dissatisfied with the house, except for a number of minor matters.
we understand that.
Okay?
So usually we do 30-day extension is typical.
Okay.
I'm willing to entertain a 60-day
That'd be
if
fine.
there's been difficulties, but I would like to hear from the occupant. Cause
Right,
I think 60 days is probably makes most sense, given the
definitely.
other circumstance with Mr. Beebe.
Right,
But
understand, yeah.
if does that sound amenable to you?
I mean, it does to me. I mean, it gives you that time, and then we can keep our communication, like we are on 5:35, so.
Okay, well, let's hear from the occupant
Okay,
first before
right.
we decide. That's what we're considering, a 60-day extension. All right. And I will promote for just a moment.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good with this. Oh, you get it.
Good evening.
Hi,
Hi. You could just state your name for the record, please?
my name is Siobhan Rooney.
Okay, thank you. And you've heard our discussion so far,
Mm-hmm.
and we're considering granting a 60-day extension for this to get the items on our correction order resolved.
Okay,
Do you have any comment about that?
well, not, George, clearly has a timeline issue because what he said, number one, was not accurate. Number two, who is Susan Sabelli? Who is,
We don't want, ma'am,
now?
we do not want to get into this is about you and Mr. Beebe. And
Yes,
about the timeline we're trying to establish.
he has not called, attempted anything once to make contact since he got his papers that there were repairs that needed to be done. He hasn't called me. Jim has not texted me. There has not been one phone call. We had a phone call on March 1st. I said, get everything done and I'll give you your money. I didn't hear from him until April 2nd.
I called her every morning that week and
Excuse
left
me,
a message. She
sure.
wouldn't answer the friggin' phone.
Mr. Beebe, we can't get into that.
Well,
We do
what am I
not,
supposed
no.
to do? Sit
You're-
here and listen to
This
this?
is just, excuse me,
Why
ma'am.
won't you come in the room? I'll take her.
Excuse me, ma'am. This is just about the extension of time. We understand that there's conflict here. That is not our purview tonight.
I
We- are you comfortable?
She will be out by then. They will be gone
Do you feel
by court order.
we need comments specifically on the amount of extension? 30 days is our normal extension. I don't see any reason not to grant that. I'm entertaining 60, but if
She will
that's
be
what I'd like
here
comment on.
after 10 more days. The sheriff's office already been down there.
Mr. Beebe, I understand.
She's
I
gotten
understand.
her,
Please,
gotten her order of eviction.
we're trying to get through this as efficiently without, with the least amount of drama. I understand the tempers, and the temperature outside doesn't help. So Siobhan, if you,
Fine, if, I don't see how he's gonna get it all done in 60 days, but that's fine, yeah.
okay. Do any of the other board members want to comment about this?
The original complaint was lead. Has any of that been taken care of?
I am getting my kids tested. We had to move from Connecticut to Massachusetts. And so transferring over and finding a pediatrician and whatnot, if I can just get them tested, if I can bring them to like an urgent care rather than their pediatrician, because I'm transferring them over from Connecticut to Mass. Would that be acceptable, or is that something that needs to be done by the pediatrician?
That's not up to the Board of Health to decide. I was more concerned about getting a lead testing done of the property.
Yeah, I would love that. I've called the numbers that Mr. Massey gave me. I've left a message. I understand that it can take a little bit of time. And I think that's probably what's happening, but it's in the process.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to comment either online or in the room about this? Do you have a?
I just
Oh,
wanted to
please.
mention something is that of all the kids I've tested for lead over 40 years, I find that the most common sources is not actually from windowsills, it's from the dirt around the building, because as paint chips away from windowsills and other and sometimes from the outside of the house, is that it falls into the dirt in around the house.
The outside of this house is all vinyl. There's no lead there.
Oh,
Was
okay,
there-
thank
It's
you.
all vinyl siding.
Was
Thank you.
there wood siding before, like
I
earlier?
don't even know. We'd have to tear it apart to look. Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
There was never any discussion with her about lead once, not one
Oh.
single discussion.
Okay,
In this
I just
entire
wanted-
relationship.
I just want for your, from the Board of Health, I just want to let you know that do not allow anyone to track dirt into the house, because the child tends to play around the floor quite a bit, so that there's less exposure.
But if there were vinyl siding, it would hold any lead that was in maybe wood underneath or shingles from falling onto the ground. It's tight to the wooden side or whatever's underneath it. I don't know. But that vinyl siding makes this entire argument nugatory.
Excuse me. There are 3 barns on the property that are all lead paint, and the lead paint is chipping off and flying in the wind. And the only reason I didn't notice it when we moved in was because the lawn was being mowed. But as spring came and we were not mowing in May because it's better for the bees, we saw all the white flakes from all 3 barns going into the grass, into the lawn. And Mr. Massey saw that when he came.
They were not renting that area. They were renting maybe the garage, but not the barns.
That doesn't matter, George. There's air.
Oh,
That
All right, but
Okay.
the point is, I can't just somebody run down there and paint the barns. It costs tens of thousands of dollars.
all right, well,
At the moment.
that is not on our, under discussion tonight, because no one has come out to make that determination. So we're here just to either grant or deny an extension for the work that is in our correction order. That's the extent of it. If our correction order grows in the future, then we can discuss those further things. And if there's a determination that's made in the future, then we can discuss that as well. So again, I'll circle us back to why we're here for this specific public hearing, which is to grant an extension.
Mhm,
I think we should do 60 days
mhm.
for allow this work to be done. And if there's no further comments from anyone in the room or anyone online, or Siobhan or Rebecca,
think was public hearing.
then
I just have one.
yes,
Like specification.
yes, please.
Can you set a date so there's no confusion?
Oh, yes.
Between 60 days total and 60 days in addition.
Yes. Yes,
I
okay,
believe the letter went out May 1st, 2025. So it's sent, so that would give us, so May 30th would give us 30 days. And so to give another 30 days, it would be June 29th.
well, it would, the original correction order had a date to be a what?
Was 30 days.
Was 30 days, so this is from that date, 60 days from that date. That's the extension.
But 30 days have already elapsed. Or do you?
Yes, but this is from when our order is extending beyond, from the date of
Right,
what the order states as completion.
right.
We
But
need to-
Ruby, you're saying you were thinking 60 days total from when the order was issued?
That's what I said.
Well, this is an extension, so it would be from the, whatever our date on our order says, it's in addition to that.
So 30 days, so you're deciding now if you want to give Mr. Beebe an extension of 30 days, which is what Ruby's suggesting. And you're suggesting 60 days.
What's the date on the order?
This one, as of receipt, was May 9th.
So the work was supposed to be completed as of. the
30
order,
days following that.
Which is,
Um, would have been the 30th.
June 30th?
That would have been, so May 9th.
Yes.
Oops, sorry.
What the point I'm trying to make is that we're already almost at that point. So it should, I would say it should be 60 days from,
Well, I guess.
So that would, 60 days following the 9th.
yes. From 30 days from the original issue of the order.
I would like to know, you said that you're having trouble getting laborers to this, to 675
Okay.
because of
Right,
your
yeah.
other property, but is that the only barrier to
Yes,
getting
Right,
You have,
this work done
if you
in
start from
yeah,
May.
yep,
a more
Well,
expedient
May
way?
9th,
May
right?
9th, yep.
Because she owes me $11,000.
That includes weekends,
I'm,
right?
I'm up against the wall. I can't hire any more people. They don't have enough money.
One, two,
So I have to stretch it out, and the sooner I can get these other properties online, I can get some more money.
7, 8.
But,
so
you know, so it's
times
a
7,
question of,
56.
deciding
4 more
where to send
days.
him every day.
1,
And
2,
the other tenants, I have some other tenants, they're complaining, they have problems.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep everybody happy.
Okay,
I have to split up this time, their time.
do we
So-
have a date?
July
Yes,
8th.
July 8th,
So we're extending, July 8th would be a 60-day extension.
yes.
Okay,
July 8th is in a month.
that's 30 days, that's only 30-day
But that's
extension.
because of that.
So the extension should be in addition to the date on the order,
He received the letter,
yes, which gave him initial 30 days.
right. He
Okay.
received the letter May
Yes,
9th.
yes,
So from May 9th, you count 60 days out.
we should be 30 days out is the normal timeline, so it's in addition to that,
So the 8th,
because that's would
So-
be the extension,
60 days.
60 days out from May 9th
yes.
is July 8th.
That only gives a 30-day extension.
In reality,
Yes.
because we're now halfway through that period.
So
that
it would be,
period. So
So we
what
need-
I would like is 30 days from now.
Oh, you want 30 days from now?
I mean, no, yeah, instead of July 4th, August 4th, or whatever it is.
Okay, so that's
That would
3,
be-
so August,
August 7th.
Right.
So you want an additional 30 days from today? Okay,
Otherwise, we have to go through all this again in
Right.
4 weeks.
exactly.
so that'll
So-
be July 5th.
Well, we need to be into August.
It's August.
August 4th is a Monday. I propose that be the date. It's not
Okay,
technically,
my other house is August 8th, so they both come at the same time, more or less.
well, we can see you again.
Yeah, okay.
So you're saying 60 days an
Yes.
extension?
Yeah, that's.
Yes, 60-day
Yeah,
extension.
that's,
Oh,
Yes,
so it's not 60 days from the time that he received the letters, it's 60 days from today.
it would be from the whatever so the order is issued, you have 30 days to comply.
Mhm.
At that 30-day point, it's 60 days in addition to that.
So 3 months.
Yes, but most of that first 30 days
It's
is,
already been, yeah.
right, so that's the extension,
Gotcha.
yes, okay.
Okay,
So we're talking about August 4th,
Oh,
okay.
August.
August 4th.
August 4th
Yeah.
as the date
Okay.
of extension. All right. Good, okay. If there's no further comment on that, then I'll take a motion to close, public comment for this public hearing.
Mhm.
Make a motion to close the public comment.
I second.
Roll call be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. So now we'll take a motion for that extension.
A motion for the extension of 60 days.
Yes, the date
Okay.
being August 4th.
Okay, so I make a motion to make the extension to August 4th.
I second.
And roll call will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Notice they don't show up in person. Boy, I don't let her have it.
Okay,
These people are something else.
we're moving on to another public hearing. No. For an extension, yes, another public hearing for an extension, this one pertaining to 23 Rossiter Street. We have people in the room, so once again, we'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
I
Mr.
make a
Beatty.
motion to, oh,
Thank you.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
I second.
Roll call will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Who in our department would like to give an update for this?
I can start.
Okay.
James will fill in with the specific dates. But I believe the health department was first notified of this property via complaint from concerned citizen neighbor. About the state of the current structure, and there being a concern of children in the neighborhood. So James, as we always do, our process is to follow up on that complaint by doing a visual inspection from the public way.
Mhm.
He did that and he saw that there was a fence surrounding the property, but he couldn't see if the fence extended all the way around the structure and that in fact, the structure was caving in and could potentially pose a hazard to the neighborhood. So followed up with a housing correction order. And at that point, we learned that the owners had plans to make repairs to the structure and the property. But they're going through their process, which I imagine you'll elaborate on in a moment. And then we paused the order until we could discuss it all together.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add about that, James, or is that,
No, that sums it up.
okay?
Yep.
Any questions from the board, or do you want to hear from the occupants?
Ready to
Or
hear.
the owners, rather, I'm sorry. Okay,
So before I want to let you know that I'm German French and I've been here for 4 years, so there might be some funky sentences.
That's okay.
So bear with me. We are planning to,
Pardon me, could you just introduce yourselves for the
okay, my
record?
name's Catherine Hurst, and that's my husband Trevor Hurst, that's all.
thank you. Okay, please continue.
Yeah, and we're planning to do a new build, so the existing structure is a tear down. We bought it as a tear down. There've been broken, when we bought it, broken pipes, but the owner just left the building. And so it's not living in it, that's why it's totally closed up with the wooden bar. And this property has an entire fence going around and partially double fenced even. And it has in the back a little hut that's locked, like for tools from the pre-owner. And we are planning to build 4 units on it. and have permanent rentals on it, and we're in the process of planning it. And we are very happy to show you the plans tonight, what we're planning on, and, we're about to be done with the decisions and go to the planning board and all these meetings here to get going and get cracking on that piece of land.
When do you hope to get started on the
as
project?
soon as possible.
As soon as the permitting gets completed?
Yeah.
Okay,
So do you want to see the plans? Do you have any interest? Is there any need?
I might add the only structure that is caving in roof wise, there's a little addition in the back of the building. And that was used as, I don't know, for laundry, I think, or something. It's a small little add-on, and that roof is already caved in, so there's no danger of it maybe caving in if there was any sort of person entering the property. That is caved in, and the main structure and the roof are, well, we can tell, not in danger of caving in. It's definitely in bad condition, but it is not, that we would be worried caving in, and it's fenced in, and we've added a padlock to the front gate to make sure that that is also not accessible, and the front door of the building has a big 2x4 screwed across it so that nobody would enter that way.
okay.
And that additional structure is disconnected from the main structure, so it's not, you couldn't access the building through that outdoor structure
Okay.
that is in that shape.
Well, I think the biggest concern is that it is fenced, the site is fenced. I mean, kids and motivated individuals will have ways of getting over fence, but if it's reasonably fenced and locked, which we observed,
Right,
right? And you
yeah,
have
yes. it was.
project. I don't think you need to show us the plans, not that I'm not interested, but we'll see the plans. If it's a new build, they'll come through our department eventually.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it would be pertinent to know what your demo plans are, like how soon do you think you might be considering demoing?
Okay, so, why we haven't done it so far is because, the existing structure is running to the neighbor directly. And if we would have demoed right away, the time is running for us to rebuild, we only have 2 years to then rebuild. And since we knew that we have all this restriction with overlay district and all of that, and special permission, and we have to always go through special function, yeah. That it would take some time, we, left the structure in place. That's the only reason why it's there. We plan to completely tear it down and, put a slab on it and, hose up the cellar and everything and straight from scratch on them.
Oh, so it will be a special permit we'll be applying for.
Yeah, because it's just where, that's just Great Barrington, because it's like the special district,
Ah.
there's no way of. Yeah, there will be always a special permission, because it has this double.
It's not.
No
Oh, yes.
conforming and there are like certain layers, so.
Yes.
so-
It's a tiny property, and with all the new setback regulation
Yes.
and the non-conforming condition of us being able to rebuild on the existing footprint, it needs to go through special permitting.
Right, so
And
we'll,
we're advised to keep that 2-year window open from tear down to the option of rebuilding
I see,
after permitting process,
I see.
because we don't control the timeline of that.
Yes, and that can take longer committee hearings, and we see all special permits like that come through our office, so we will see them for review in the future.
Yeah.
So what amount of time do we think is reasonable? I mean, if we went, that could take you 90 days, it could take you half a year, you never know how these things are, so.
Well, I think the information that we received now, that maybe James, correct me if I'm wrong, that we didn't have before, is learning that now that the property is completely is enclosed by a fence and
Right.
padlocked. We didn't know that prior, right?
No, and knowing that that back room is separate from the house, entry wise, I mean, that helps substantially. That wood paneling fence that had fallen over, I couldn't see, you could see on the other side that there was a wire, the fence. But I couldn't get a viewpoint on a plain view sighting of that.
Mhm.
So they, she had, Ms. Hurst had clarified that via a phone call that we had, but I knew that we were gonna discuss this at this meeting.
Okay, so do we want to entertain something different then? Besides a time extension, or?
But I just add something that fence that fell down was a fence from a neighbor. It wasn't our fence, just
Okay.
because we had a survey done, so that.
Okay. So I guess my question is does our order pertinent still at this point, given the additional information we have?
I mean, I think that, you know, having that sealed off like we do, I mean, it's not accessible. So it's, getting that clarity was a big piece to it. And also with that room being completely separated from the house, it's substantial. So knowing that now tonight is huge, that's great, you know, that's huge, so.
Okay.
you know.
Well,
Thank
we
you for
have,
that, too.
we have options. We can grant extensions or we can rescind the order if we feel there's no further grounds for that order.
I would vote to rescind.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, I agree. Rebecca, how do you feel about?
That's an option.
all right.
I just have one question. Do you have a gas line that goes to that house?
Yeah, all lines are cut off, everything, there's no electricity, but I don't think we have gas, we have oil, it's all cut off, everything is cut off. The last was electricity, that was in January.
And the existing structure had oil heating, so there's gas in Rossiter Street, but I don't think there's a gas line to the building.
I see.
Since it didn't have gas in.
I
Okay.
see. Okay. How do you think, Peter? I'm,
Agree, rescind.
okay. Well, since this is a public hearing, we just have to take comment from anyone who would like to do so. I see Eileen's hand up. So we'll take that comment now. Eileen, you should be promoted momentarily. There we go.
Okay, you can hear me?
We can?
All right, I had a question. It was
Yes.
very difficult to hear the property owners because of the placement. So I was wondering what they were planning to do with the property.
I can repeat that maybe a little louder.
You can come sit closer to the
Yes.
owl if you.
We're planning to, have, 4 units built on it. And it will become, rentals, permanent rentals. Does that help?
Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you, Eileen. Any other questions from attendees or those in the room? I'm not seeing any, so I'll take a motion to close public comment.
Make a motion to close the public comment.
I second.
Roll call is Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. And so we'll just look for a motion to rescind the order pertaining to 23 Rossiter Street.
And make a motion to rescind the order for, you said 23 Rossiter Street?
Yes,
Yep, 23 Rossiter Street.
I second.
and our roll call will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay, you've been freed from us.
Thank you.
Thank
I just want to add one last thing while you're here. When you do decide to demo, just want to let you know that there's Board of Health permit process for demoing. And it's pretty simple. Just wanted to let you know, because that's not common knowledge all the time.
Yeah, you just need to apply to it. You'll find it on the town's website,
Yeah.
what permits you need from us, or you can just call Rebecca. And she'll let you
With
know.
the contractor, will we organize that, or do we have to do that separately?
Occasionally, the contractor could do that all for you.
Okay.
We want to know about hazardous materials
Oh,
like
yeah.
lead, asbestos, and also, like Ruby was asking, that all utilities have been disconnected. There's this whole checklist that we need to have from you, and we also require that you bait and trap for rodents a minimum of 7 days prior to demo. Those are the highlights of the demo.
Yeah.
Permit application.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I've heard of that, I think the contractor would take it, but that's a whole process.
All of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Great.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right. Board of Health questions and updates. I do not have any to share in our open session. So I'm seeing a nod, no from Peter. Anything from you, Ruby?
Are we gonna go into the next one?
Board of Health business?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
okay. Board of Health, do you have any comment, general Board of Health?
no,
Okay,
announcements.
okay, so we'll get down to Board of Health business. And we have a out of compliant septic system over at 15 Monument Valley Road. So who wants to update us, give us a brief overview? Is that James again?
I can start,
Okay.
James, and again, if you wanna fill in with like most
Okay.
recent events, please do that, but. 15 Monument Valley, I don't know if any of you were on the Board of Health, but I think it was around 2014, 2015. The septic system was deemed a failure, and at that time, the Board of Health authorized or voted. Probably through a public hearing, that the owners did not need to make any immediate repairs to their system. Despite the failure, that they could turn their septic tank into what's called a tight tank. So that's, if you don't know, blocking off flow to the leach field, and just all effluent from the house is going into the septic tank. And then you're calling a hauler to pump that out. So I didn't go back to look at the vote, but I believe the Board of Health at that time voted for a monthly hauling of the tank. They've stuck to that. They've been very diligent in all these years in pumping their septic tank out pretty regularly. But despite that, we have had numerous complaints, typically from the hauling company, that when they go to take out that septage, that the tank is overflowing. So we tried to go, but we got a little bit smarter after the second or third complaint, and went prior to pumping to see what the status of the tank was doing, and that we just kind of lined up with the pumping company. James just went 2 weeks ago. I
That was,
think.
yeah, actually, May 22nd
Okay.
was when Mount Everett had gone to do the pumping, so
Yeah.
I had gone at that point, and gone, actually introduced myself, the pumper, and then gone up to the house, and introduced myself to the occupant, Rebecca McNeil, and just stated, just letting her know the concerns that had come into the office.
If I could pause you for a second, so they pumped on the 22nd,
Yes,
and you went on
on the
the,
22nd.
oh, you went the
I'm
same
at the
day?
pump because I want.
Oh, you were
I-
there while they were
Yeah,
pumping.
I wanted to
Okay.
actually be there
Okay.
to see the condition.
Yes,
So when I did that, first I introduced myself to the pumper, then I went to the house. And knocked on the door, introduced myself, and talked to Rebecca McNeil. About the concerns, and that I would like the opportunity to take a look at the septic and get a better idea of what the concerns are. So in that case, and she had talked to me about the years of challenges and what they're all trying to do as a family, as a group. So at that point, we concluded that discussion. I went down and was with the pumper taking a look at the tank, and that's when I did my investigation of it, of the top and around the area there with the breakout and the seeping. And then the septic was roughly about 3 inches from the top of the lid. So that's what brought us to this point now, which, the Title V correction order concern, and also the housing concern on it for sanitary conditions, but that's everything that I have with that.
so nothing that you saw was leaking out
I didn't see it overflowing or breaking out, no, but the ground was saturated and wet. And,
around it.
yes,
So
and going
and-
down the driveway
Ah,
section. I could not see where it was connecting to Monument Valley Road, but if it was overflowing or those concerns, I could see that as a potential, but factually, what I saw was it was very damp, moist, and I was, sinking in as I was walking down through that
so
area.
the gray water's been escaping,
Yes.
probably concurrent with the use.
Right, and it's, the gray water is coming up the neck of the riser, so that's, and talking to the pumpers in the sense of the challenge and the seal of that. You want the tank as the holding, not the riser to be a part of that holding, because
Absolutely.
it will,
It'll
the
seep in
neck,
there.
those collars.
Yes.
They're not sealed, will seep. So anyways, that's what we put together. We do have Sean Allen, who is one of the trustee members on hold too tonight.
Okay.
And he and I have been in very good communication. And also I've been in communication with Kay Giroux,
Yeah.
the other family member, and group Bruce Allen as well. So anyways, that's.
Okay.
What are you asking?
Well, it's the concern of, I can go by the correction order of the Title V, is that I had placed it as, in talking to Mount Everett Sanitation, of looking at setting it to a 3-week pumping instead of every 4-week. That does create obviously a financial burden on the family as well, but it will, in talking to the pumping company, Mount Everett, that would suffice keeping that tank lower so it doesn't go up the neck of that septic system or
At
the
this-
rising.
Thanks, sorry. At this point, we're not asking the Board of Health to make any decisions, but
Right.
you maybe saw the orders that I put in the shared folder. There's a 30-day timeline on the Title V order to correct and the housing order to correct. So because we're ordering them essentially to put in a compliant Title V septic system, it might take them longer than 30 days to
Mhm.
do that.
Mhm.
So I imagine in July, we'll be back before you, asking you to make a decision, but right now we're just updating you with
Okay.
our process, and that decisions will probably need to be made in
All
the
right.
future.
Do we want to hear from Mr. Allen tonight?
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
It's right there.
Yep. All right. Mr. Allen, we're promoting you to panelist so that you can join the Zoom meeting as an active participant, which you should have permissions to do that now. So you just need to either unmute or turn your camera on. One or both.
Hello,
Very good. Good evening.
what can I do for you?
Is there anything you'd like to comment on? James and Rebecca have given us a update on the situation. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Most of the times when there's been runoff, we were the ones that actually called.
We called Mount Everett to have them come because there had been seepage, like James was saying, it was kind of boggy. And a lot of times that is because we've gotten a lot of rain. And
Mhm.
And it runs right down that
it
area.
runs right past.
That's right next to the house.
Yeah. So it's not always the tank right there. It kind of runs down a lot of the rock ledge because that's mainly all that the property is rock ledge.
I see. Okay,
When was the last pumping when you went there?
It was the 22nd of May.
No, that's when you
But-
went there.
Right.
But when was the last pumping?
I was there that was when they pumped. So
That was
Before
the
that,
very
before-
last one,
before,
yes.
it should have been 30 days prior to that date, within that window of time. I'm
Okay,
gonna have to pull that pumping record, but Mount Everett has, from their side and from our records, I mean, they've been administering those and doing their monthly pumping and trying to get into that window of time within 30 days. But in talking to them, that's where Travis had mentioned the 3-week window of time because of that concern.
okay,
But that's
sorry.
back from the pumper.
when we come back to discuss this again,
Yes.
is there any way we could get a record from Mount Everett about the times that they've gone to pump?
Yeah, yes, I can pull that
So we
together.
have a better idea of
Yep.
what's actually is going on
Okay.
How many?
over a
years
long period of time.
Do you want it from 2015? On the pumping records?
Whatever
from
they
Mount Everett?
have would be great. It just helps us understand like
Yeah.
what's actually happening since that time.
Okay. All right, so this will be back before us next month.
I imagine,
We had
yeah, I
actually
can go through some
requested. Sean and I had both actually requested that Mount Everett come specifically every 4 weeks on the dot, not every 30 days, because going over into like a 5th week, we knew there was an issue.
I see.
And they are not exactly every 4 weeks on the dot. If we do
Okay.
get a lot more rain, like I said, it tends to drain down in and make it a little worse. Sitting the way it does now.
Okay,
Because I'm your health agent, I'm gonna give you my professional opinion, and that is that a tight tank is not a permanent solution. This is be going on 10 years, and while we're absolutely sympathetic of the exorbitant costs of putting in a new septic system, it is our role as health agent and board of health to make sure that you're protecting the environment and that no sewage is going into the environment, so. In my opinion, it sounds like this system needs some more compliant options. And that will be up to you to decide potentially, if you want to require that a whole new system goes in, there are other maybe less expensive measures that you can take, but I don't think that. Having the pumping company come on a regular schedule is completely foolproof. Depends on the rain, depends on the usage. I think you'll need something. A little bit more compliant.
so we have two orders that are. Have an issue, and you're working with the. Owners to resolve them. Okay, all right. Well, it sounds like we'll be seeing you again another meeting, our next meeting. So I think will suffice for this evening, unless you'd like to make any other comments.
Sean and I have discussed, and I did discuss with Cadro a while back, getting a second opinion from another sewage company other than Mount Everett Sanitation. There are plenty of them out there. About what exactly needs to be done, because when they did the first perk test, I was there, and the leach field was perfectly fine. If they put in a report that it wasn't, then there's a conflict of interest on that, because I was standing right there. And so wasn't Jane Smith.
I see. So this is during James' time. This is probably back when I started, or just after I started.
Probably.
Okay. I
And
vaguely
like I
remember.
said, again, there's such a wide space and communication issue between all three parties. It's really difficult to get them all together in one place.
I see. Okay, well, Rebecca will be talking with you about all those details. And I'm sure she will go through with a fine tooth comb to figure out what we can do to make the financial burden as least as possible, because that is a big issue with anything septic. And we understand that.
Thank you.
James, maybe you can talk a little bit, you can tell the Board of Health what you sent.
Right.
The occupants.
Yeah, I did send them along with the correction order and inspection report. The Berkshire Community Development from Don Lemon, some grants that could be possible. Also did some other researching for them through Mass Housing, just even like repairs or home improvements for said people of 62 years of age and older. So there's some packages that I sent Sean and the family to contact numbers. Dawn Lemon also said that, you know, it's connecting with them. That's not a problem. She's happy to do that, looking forward to it. And she can help them with paperwork and getting the application process started to see where this would land for them on support on those avenues. So,
Oh, that's good to hear.
yep,
That's great.
yep, absolutely.
Okay, well, we'll look for this on our next agenda, and thank you both for attending and addressing the board, and I'm sure we'll be speaking with you again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Right. So now we are down to the solid waste hauling regulations and best practices. And everything's going to be.
As you all know, there's been a shortage of solid waste facilities in Massachusetts. and Massachusetts DEP have updated the haulers permits and looking at a list of different towns and their haulers, I did some research and found that different towns have different age of their policies. I had sent to Rebecca 3 that was more recent. Some of them are just 3 pages, like Lee's was 3 pages. There was more extensive policy from Amherst as well as Falmouth was the other one. And so what we need to do is we need to also have a municipal policy throughout the town about waste hauling, waste. What are we going to do for the town? And most towns, what they've done is that they have more specific regulations about dual streaming. Dual streaming is where you have solid waste and you have recyclable. So most people, as you can see, are already doing that. They have 2 buckets. So 1 bucket is for solid waste and 1 bucket for recyclables. And you can see that all along the roads. What we're trying to do is to make it a policy so that the whole town will start doing that. And so the haulers have no choice. They can't do single stream. In other words, they can't just combine everything and just dump it.
What, does that mean no dumpsters as you envision them? So there are a lot of,
So it enforces recycling. That's basically it.
is this just for residential picking or for across the board?
Residential and business.
And business. So if someone has a dumpster out in the back, they
So
can,
if a hauler comes to a restaurant
Yes.
and wants to haul out, they would have to obey certain policies.
absolutely.
And so the Board of Health does the policy recommendations. In some towns, it goes to the select board for them to approve. But most of the time, the Board of Health can actually make these policies on
Mhm.
our own. And I think it's really time that we start doing that. We are, in a very rural area. We don't, for us to haul things anywhere, it's going to be gradually more and more expensive. Many towns have raised their transfer station rates by 60 to 70%. And in order for the town to be better prepared for the amount of cost adjustments, once the cost of hauling this to any dump site, as you well know, as the dump sites get filled up, you have to haul them further and further away. And so the cost is going to be more and more as time goes on. And we need to be really trying to start the residents here being more mindful to be used to recycling, so there's less solid waste. They need to be mindful of certain banned waste that you can't put in solid waste, such as lithium batteries, such as mercury containing products. All of these things really need to be updated and brought to the town so that we could comply with Mass DEP. They have specific laws concerning waste bans. And we need to start working on that. So I have a couple of recommendations, which is basically I sent over a couple of examples of what other towns have done. The hauler permit itself is relatively simple. We can make it as tight as we want, up to the point of recommending that the carts that are left on the curbside have to be brought in. They may have to be, bear proofed, have to make certain regulations to something more easier. So we need public comments. We need to understand what people want. Many people are doing composting. That's another component that we can add on to our policy, our haulers policy, that they also provide services for composting, hauling. So those are all things that should be brought to the table.
So if people go to the transfer station, they already have to do that. Separate,
No,
they don't.
they don't. So if you go to the transfer station, you are charged by the bag. So if you decide you don't want to recycle, you put everything in the bag and you toss it. You pay more for the bigger the bag, the more it costs. But if you recycle, that's free. So then the bags get smaller. So what happens is that each haul, the town has to haul this all the way out to Springfield for the recyclables. For the solid waste, it gets hauled out to Casella, which is in Pittsfield. Then they haul it out to out of state, either New York or South Carolina, North Carolina. It's variety, wherever they can get the cheapest rate. But that all costs fossil fuel, the fuel costs, the man cost, the site cost, that all cost is really coming to a head right now. And so the more we can recycle, the more we can compost, the less cost it will be to everyone. Because if you combine resources, the cost goes down. So let's say you take recyclables and we bring the recyclables to Springfield Municipal facilities, and where they process it and they sell it. Okay, they sell the aluminum, they sell the plastic, they sell the glass to be crushed, to be used for construction. And so if we sell it, the more we sell, the more they make, and the less it costs us. So the more we recycle, the better it is for the community in more than one front, financially, environmentally, and, you know, just being more mindful of what is in our waste. So I think all in all, that these are things that we're really working. This is one of the aspects of Board of Health that most towns are doing. And I think we need to really jump on the bandwagon and start doing that. So what I propose is to have every member to review the policies and then give us comments and, you know, what you would like from other towns that you thought was good. What are things that you think is too excessive for our town? We'll come together, have a discussion, bring it up for public hearing, make it a policy, and then we can draft our haulers permits to match the town's policies. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, my understanding was Massachusetts required haulers to do certain things, like recycling. How they did it is different.
Each town is different.
There's no state guidelines?
They have recommendations, but they don't have,
There's no requirement.
yes. It's each locale.
Hmm.
And you could see I popped up different towns and what some of them are, you know, pretty ancient policies that these towns have. And some of them are much more up to date. But sooner or later, each town will have to update them. They have to understand that there is a mattress ban, there's textile ban, there is, you know, these bans that you can no longer just pile up and put it into your solid waste because it gets more and more expensive as time goes on.
How does enforcement work with that? If you, like in our town, we have, most of the haulers are from out of state. Like Barbado comes from New York,
Mhm.
Kinsella comes down from, sorry, out of town.
Mhm,
Casella comes down from Pittsfield.
mhm.
How do you enforce these type of bans for things like that?
You could do periodic checks, just like the health department goes and checks on restaurants.
So you
And
inspect their facility or you inspect the people's waste at the curb?
you have the right to inspect their hauling truck
Oh.
to see what they actually do.
Oh.
You can explain to them, what are your difficulties so that we could help you? How do we educate the public so they don't give you a hard time when they only give you one cart and they don't recycle? These are all things that requires a lot of education, and it's more of an educational process than it is truly, you know, issuing, you know, citations. That's not the point. The point is to get everyone on board so that we can deal with environmental concerns.
It sounds like these will help more with the transfer station than they will with private haulers, because many of them, as to my knowledge, they all do recycling, whether or not people recycle everything in their trash, I think that's different, but it sounds like the transfer station really will benefit the most from
A transfer station is only a very small part of the town. So most, many people have their carts. You drive up and down all the streets, you can see the two buckets in front of their driveway. And then Barbados comes through or Roger Trucking comes through. You see that every day. You drive down the road, you can see them. And so I would say, I don't have the exact data, but I did get information from the town clerk. And it's not transfer station. Actually, they wanted to close the transfer station because the town had felt that not enough people are using the transfer station. It is it's a huge cost. The result is that the waste gets hauled out, regardless of whether it's top full or whether it's half empty, it gets hauled.
Oh, the containers.
Yes, the containers,
Yeah.
the roll-offs.
Yeah.
So transfer stations are not used as much, and therefore the town actually, for our budget this year, they had wanted to close it. But the finance board and the select board all agreed that that they're not gonna do that. So how do we increase the usage of the transfer stations so that it could become sustainable? And we can make it sustainable to a certain extent with the grants coming from the Mass DEP. So the Mass DEP has all of these grants coming through that says, you guys are good recyclers, you guys are really good haulers, you separate everything, you're doing a good job, and we're gonna give you these grants for this, all of the things that you guys have done. So we can save some money, and we can save more the more we recycle. It comes back to us
Are these one-time grants or are they something you can apply for every year?
every year,
Every year.
and it gets higher and higher.
Mm.
So Rebecca started applying last year, and she just put in the numbers for this year. So every year the number goes up. So this is all good stuff coming through. And these are things that, so the state is trying to make it as easy as possible for each municipality to able to conform to what's going on statewide. Because it's gonna get expensive. It's gonna be very, very expensive. In the old days, people say, oh, I just burn my trash. You can't burn anything right now.
Expensive for the town or expensive for people or everything?
Expensive for people.
And,
Every day, every household, it is a utility expense, not less than sewer, not less than, water.
Mm.
So it is something that, it's the trend that we have better technology, we understand. Lithium batteries have been put in trash dumps, it has been, there's been many fires associated with the lithium batteries. These are up and coming more and more. And we need to start, saying, no, lithium batteries don't go in the trash. You don't want it in your barn, you don't want it in your garage, you want it to be dumped in a correct space. That is safe. The same thing with mercury, the same thing with many toxic substances. So hazardous waste, we now contract out to Tri-Town. So Tri-Town is doing that us a favor by holding these days where people can dump their paint and their oils and their toxic waste, so forth. But it has to be a lot more usable and understandable for people.
So what would you say is the biggest difference from our current regulations for haulers with the ones that are being proposed? Is it
We
just
don't have a recycling mandate.
no recycling mandate? Okay.
We don't have a recycling mandate in this town. And because we don't have any way of explaining to the haulers that you need to do dual stream hauling. Most of them do,
Yes,
because they have two cartons, and they wouldn't have two cartons if you.
right.
But I do see them sometimes put two cartons into one dump truck, so I don't know how that works.
They have the trucks that do the recycling and the trash.
Mhm,
There's a baffle that comes up in the middle.
mhm,
So it looks like, because people say it to me a lot.
Yeah.
I've talked with the guy who comes to our property.
yeah,
And the baffle that comes up and it dumps the trash in, then it goes down and the recycling goes the other side.
Gotcha,
And that's why they will get upset if you have an excessive amount of trash because it throws off their whole route, because they
Gotcha.
plan for a certain capacity on their route.
gotcha.
Right. And sometimes, what I've heard is sometimes the cardboard will sometimes go into the trash and they'll separate it at their facility.
Mhm.
So they do, and I think the construction, like, roll-off dumpsters, the open top ones. Many of those companies have become much more stringent. You know,
Right.
Many years ago, people would dump everything in there.
Right.
Tires, and now
Right.
you'll get fines.
Right.
More and more companies are fining people.
Right.
But they're doing the they see it when they haul it to wherever.
Mhm.
So that's why I was curious about the enforcement, because it would
So
be
the
quite a,
enforcement is actually, when you take a haul to the dump site,
yes,
there are people that actually go into the trash and they'll open it up and they'll see what's in there.
Mm.
And they can issue citations to the hauler
yes,
if they see, textiles
Yes.
in there. Or if they see something that shouldn't be there. So they do that.
yes,
And I know that at the recycling center, they wanna have a waste of not more than 5%, which means that if you happen to put in things that are not recyclable, that will go against you. So people are looking at everything that you dump to make sure it goes into the right place.
In your research, how much of the recyclable material is actually recycled? Because there were stories years ago, much of the recycling from the US went overseas. to
Yeah,
countries.
people say 5%, it's more than that.
Right, but now it doesn't. Now a lot of those countries are not taking recyclable materials from the US.
So far, the plastics and the aluminum, we meet every month and we have a discussion of how much you are taking in and how much, actually, it's in the United States that people are using the plastic.
They are using it.
Yes, and the aluminum rates have been very steady. So from the time that I joined the committee and following these trends, because we did ask them, what's gonna happen when overseas do not want the plastic? And he says, no, this is used in our country. So the aluminum is used I wouldn't say locally, but it is used in this country.
Mm.
And so is plastic.
I learned that glasses too. Glasses recycled, reused in the United States as
Yes.
well.
So the rates have been good. So we shouldn't say, oh, now overseas is closing, so we're not gonna gain as much, because we are using it locally.
Well, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah, so the rates are still good,
Okay,
okay?
so what's our first step? We want to.
So first step is really looking at the recycling policies of the different municipalities, and I've given Rebecca 3 that she could put in the drive,
Mhm.
and everyone can look at it and really kind of just check through the ones that you think you would really like to have in our policy. You can check it through, and then Rebecca and I will draft one, and then we'll look at it, review it, send it up to the select board and see what they think, and open up for public comment.
Or have a public hearing about that.
Yes.
Yeah, which we have to do anyway for new any
For
kind of,
anything.
yeah.
But I think it's time to really have a good discussion.
Okay, so that's the biggest thing we need to address is the recycling
Right,
mandate.
because then the hauler's permit will have wording to that effect.
Mhm.
In this town, this is what we require.
Mhm. Okay, good.
Okay,
Yep,
all right.
all right. Any comment, Peter, before we move on, or?
Nope.
Okay. Next is department updates.
Well, I don't have any here, but I guess I'll just say really quickly that, yes, we applied for the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program grant. That was due on Monday. We applied for RDP funds, which is just kind of like, based on all of the activities that we did throughout the year, we qualified for funds, and then we also applied for food waste container to get a bear-free cage fence up at the transfer station, so we can talk about the possibility of extending our composting program. That's kind of the first step, is to get this bear-proof container so we can decrease our hauling costs, because we were hauling the food waste every day the transfer station was open, which contributed to the discontinuation of our program. We ran out of funds, basically. And then also we applied for a glass roll-off container. That was an idea that came from the Department of Public Works that will help them decrease their shipping costs for glass to the Springfield MRF if they have a separate container that people can further separate out their recyclables, and they'll have to contract with a company to take away that
Yeah,
glass.
it'll
and that's-
decrease the cost by 5%.
So,
That over a long period of time, you know, the roll-offs, you know, last a long time. 5% every week is a lot.
Okay.
yeah, so
That's it.
hopefully we'll hear soon whether we qualify for those grants and can
Mhm.
get moving on some of these initiatives.
Okay. Great.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the paper flag, I moved, so
Oh,
when
Do you have
Gus.
any questions, James?
No, I'm just taking all that in. I think it's wonderful. So it's definitely something, if we get new septic haulers and things, we can, I put those regs to them and they apply. We've done that in our past when they come in, so,
Right on.
yeah, that's
Okay.
awesome.
So that's it for updates?
Sure.
All right, we'll move down to citizen speak time. Eileen's on. And you are here as well?
I did have a question. Is this meeting recorded?
Yes,
By
the Zoom records it. The Zoom platform records the meeting?
Great Barrington?
Yes, yes,
So-
all the meetings are, any hybrid meetings are recorded.
By the town of Great Barrington? Is that correct? You're saying by the town of Great Barrington?
Yes,
Because when you go to the public meetings, they're not listed. The Board of Health meetings are,
the recordings aren't listed on the website, you mean?
yeah. Maybe you could look into that.
Yes,
Thanks.
okay,
I think we have a new website too, so
Yeah.
everything's
I'm well
getting
aware-
kind
no,
of strange.
this is,
But the old one was
I know,
definitely,
I'm very well aware of that. The new website kicked in, 2 weeks ago, a week ago?
yeah.
I'm talking about the last month before, et cetera.
Oh, yeah, it's,
And usually, when the different boards in town, they make an announcement, this meeting is being recorded by the town of Great Barrington, CTSB, the Berkshire Eagle, whatever's going on, so I didn't hear any of that, like I say, they're not listed on the website, so it'd be great if you could explain a little bit.
yeah,
Put all the prior meetings, post them,
mhm.
so everybody can see what's going on here, yeah, thanks.
okay. I imagine it's in conjunction with minutes being posted.
Say that again, please, I can't hear.
I imagine it's in conjunction with minutes. Minutes are required to be posted.
I understand that.
And
Yeah.
my understanding was
But you
Recordings
already
went
made a
into it.
statement that this meeting is being recorded by the town of Great Barrington, it's being recorded by the town of Great Barrington, it'll be on their website for the world to view, so thanks,
right,
thank you.
okay. Any more questions? That's it? Okay,
That's it.
and Eileen, any questions? You're the only attendee online. And if there's nothing else, we are gonna now move into executive session, so we will be adjourning our public sessions. So. What's that?
So because you're holding the executive session now.
Yes.
You'll make a vote to not return to.
Yes, we have to make the vote to go into executive session in the regular, and then we adjourn the regular. Yes, okay, so I'll go back to the language that's on the agenda from the beginning of the meeting. Which is convening to executive session, the only change being we will not be returning to public session. So executive session under MGL chapter 30A, section 21A3 for the following purpose. To discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation, Houstonic Waterworks Company versus Town of Great Barrington and Great Barrington Board of Health et al., Berkshire Superior Court, civil action number 2476 CV 00150. If the chair declares, which I do, that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the board or town's litigating or negotiating position. A vote regarding whether to go into executive session is expected, and votes may occur during the executive session. So we have a motion on the agenda. Do you want Ruby to read that out, Peter?
That'd be great, thanks.
Okay. If you want to read the motion.
Oh, you want
the
me to
language,
read it?
Yeah, and then we
Okay.
can,
Anticipated motion, move that the board meet in executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the following purpose: to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation by and with Housatonic Waterworks Company, Berkshire Superior Court, civil action number 2476, CV 00150.
and we just need a second.
Second.
And the roll call will be Ruby,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. And now we'll just take a motion to adjourn for the evening, the public session of this meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the public session.
I second.
And our final roll call for this will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well.